in Abrahamic monotheism. The problem is not one God. The problem is ownership. The central issue in Abrahamic monotheism is not the number of gods. Numbers are trivial. The real issue is this: what happens when one particular God, worshipped by one particular people, in one particular desert, at one particular moment in history, is declared to be the exclusive owner of all reality, the final judge of all mankind, the only legitimate object of worship across all civilizations? That is not merely a religious claim. That is a territorial claim dressed in metaphysics. Once that claim is made, the logic becomes iron. The other is no longer simply different. The other is wrong. The other's God is not another God. It is a lie. The other's worship is not another path. It is an offense. The other's civilization is not another culture. It is disobedience against the universal sovereign. That is the catastrophe at the heart of exclusive monotheism. It does not say, "This is our path." It says, "This is the only path." It does not say, "This is our God." It says, "This is the only God, and He owns you too." It does not say, "We have our law." It says, "Our law supersedes yours, because our law comes from the owner of everything." And once God owns everything, the believer is no longer merely a believer. He becomes an agent of ownership. Conquest is no longer ambition, it becomes administration. The destruction of the other's temple is no longer vandalism, it becomes purification. The subordination of the other's civilization is no longer violence, it becomes correction. The sword becomes a theological instrument. The army becomes a ministry. This is where metaphysics becomes a political weapon. The other's property becomes contestable. His law becomes subordinate. His temple becomes a provocation. His dignity becomes conditional. Mercy flows inward. Brotherhood is covenantal. The insider is a brother. The outsider is a problem. The insider stands under divine protection. The outsider stands under divine judgment. The outsider must be converted, subordinated, expelled, or destroyed. This is not accidental. This is not merely corruption. This is the doctrine operating according to its own structure. Exclusive monotheism speaks the language of universal morality while organizing humanity through sacred hierarchy. It declares that one God rules all mankind. Then it assigns the administration of that rule to one community, one revelation, one law, one covenant, one church, one book, one prophet. From that moment forward, disagreement is no longer disagreement. It becomes rebellion. Difference is no longer difference. It becomes sin. The other can never remain simply other. He must be renamed. Idolater, infidel, heretic, pagan, enemy of God. That renaming is not casual language. It is a categorical operation. It converts human diversity into cosmic criminality. And once that label is applied, violence no longer appears as persecution. It appears as enforcement. This is the mechanism behind sacred empire, behind forced conversion, behind inquisitions, behind crusades, behind jihads, behind temple destruction, behind civilizational erasure. The mechanism does not require monsters. It requires certainty. It requires the belief that one community possesses exclusive access to the universal God. From there, the logic follows. Difference becomes sin. Disagreement becomes treason. Destruction becomes sacred duty. The other cannot be permitted to exist as an equal. because his existence, intact and unsubmitted, refutes the claim that the one true God rules all. If the other remains standing, if his temple remains standing, if his civilization remains unbroken, then the claim of exclusive universal sovereignty is weakened. So the other must be corrected. He must be subordinated. He must, if necessary, be destroyed. Not always out of hatred, that is the terrifying point. Out of love for God, out of fidelity to truth, out of duty to the universal sovereign. The horror of exclusive monotheism is not that it produces monsters. The horror is that it produces sincere men. Men who believe conquest is compassion. Men who believe destruction is purification. Men who believe domination is obedience. Men who believe the erasure of the other is not cruelty, but service to God. So we must ask, is this religion or empire in the language of heaven? Is this morality or conquest sanctified by metaphysics? Is this divine truth or the most dangerous political idea ever invented? One God, one truth, one book, one law, one chosen community. And everyone else? The other, the error, the rebellion, the enemy of God. Why? Please visit www.reasoninrevolt.com for more information.